Welcome to Sports Scene, a show where these three knuckleheads over here brawl it out to be the ultimate winner and get 30 seconds of face time at the end. I am your host, Collin Talbert, and why don't we meet these three fine gentlemen to my left? Well, first, he runs, catches, and even knits like Randall Cobb. That's Dustin Skolaski. Next, his style is mind-blowing. I mean, look at that sexy jersey. The fantasy football guru, that's Chase Stiener. And last but not least, his left to right crossover is illegal in 8 states.
It is.
But don't tell him that.
Don't tell me that.
That's Nick Ragner.
Don't tell me that.
All right, well, first off, we're going to start with our first segment of the show, and that is going to be the first word. Just basically talk about some of the hottest stories in sports today. So why don't we start Packers, Panthers. The Packers dominated the Panthers 38-17. They improved to 5-2 on the year. So guys, we'll start with you, Dustin. What were your thoughts on the game? What was going right for the Packers?
Pretty much everything was going right for the Packers, but I also like to add that it was also about what was going wrong for the Panthers. You saw Cam Newton make mistakes. You saw a defense last year that was second in scoring fall to, I believe, 30th this year. But I mean, you can't just discredit that because the Packers offense was clicking, was performing at a really high rate.
Chase, do you agree? What do you think?
Absolutely. I think this was a chance for the Packers to impose their will on the Carolina Panthers and especially to the rest of the NFL. This way they were saying, listen, we can score on one of the league's best defenses, or at least used to be one of the best defenses. And then they also kept a running quarterback in check, which is something that the Packers defense has been struggling with for quite some time with Kaepernick and Russell Wilson and those guys.
Nice. That was a good reference, the whole running thing. All I know is that I learned from the game is just how bad Cam Newton is. I mean, did you guys see some of the balls he was throwing? He was way off. There'd be like a flat pass, and he'd be like 10 feet off the guy. It's like, who is he throwing to? And just the only thing I learned is that Cam Newton's really bad. I didn't think it really challenged the Pack at all. I don't think we learned anything about the Packers in this game. Carolina's defense is terrible. Everybody on Carolina's offense is pretty bad other than Calvin Benjamin, and that's only because he's on my fantasy football team. But otherwise, yeah, I don't think we learned much other than Cam Newton isn't a good quarterback.
King of the happy feet, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Dances way too much.
So kind of just piggybacking off that, we'll go right back to you, Nick. You were talking about how bad Cam Newton was. You're not going to give any credit to the Packers secondary? I mean, they're playing pretty good right now, that secondary.
I wouldn't give them too much credit. They played well, and they covered the receivers well, but just from what I saw watching the game, I don't have any stats in front of me. Cam Newton missed a lot of guys that were wide open. He made things difficult. He wasn't throwing the ball in stride, so when his guys did make catches, they were already falling behind because they had to stop to catch the ball or they had to fumble the ball because it wasn't a well-thrown pass. But yeah, their secondary played well. I mean, they got to Cam Newton as well. Julius Peppers, Clay Matthews, Nick Perry, some of those guys were able to put pressure on Cam. But I mean, yeah, he just played terrible. So.
When's the last time you ever said Nick Perry made a play? Then he scored.
Not often.
So Dustin, talking about he doesn't want to give too much credit to this Packers secondary, but realistically, they have been playing a lot better, causing a lot of interceptions. Where they have 10 or 11 interceptions though this far. So. Would you say that this Packers secondary is a lead, or are they still in the middle of the pack kind of thing?
I was going to say I've always been a doubter of Dom Capers. I've never believed him in too much to lead the Packers since the Super Bowl year. I feel the team has been failing, being really inconsistent. They've always been a bend but not break, always relying on the turnovers. This year the turnovers rate have been up. I believe they're tied with the Giants for the NFL lead. So we'll see as the season goes on. All
right. So real quick, Chase, I just got to ask you real quick here. Packers offense, are they the best offense in the NFL right now?
Not yet, but they will be. Give them 2 or 3 more weeks. They're close. They're knocking on the door.
All right, well, talking about offense, history was made Sunday night in Denver. A man by the name of, was it Peyton Manning? I think Peyton Manning broke Brett Favre's touchdown passing record with his 509th touchdown to Demaryius Thomas. So we'll start with Nick over there. What are your thoughts on this record? Pretty impressive, right?
I don't think it means anything. We knew what Peyton Manning could do beforehand. We knew, he threw 56 last year, which I think was a more impressive feat at that. When it comes down to Peyton, we can agree it's always about the rings, right? That's all it's about. I mean, you talk about a guy, Dan Marino, who had the record before Brett Favre, and nobody ever considers Dan Marino one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Why? Or in league history. Why? Because he didn't win a Super Bowl. So, I mean, that's something that's still lingering over Peyton. He has one. He needs another one. He's playing better than he did in Indy, in my opinion. I mean, his balls don't have as much zip on them, but how his IQ on the field just seems like it's off the charts. I don't think the record means anything. I think winning a ring this year would.
What do you think?
I would have to disagree in the respect that it doesn't mean anything. I think it's big for the game. I think it's big for Peyton. I also think that you're hitting the nail right on the head when it comes down to rings. these records mean a lot, but they don't mean everything. Rings mean everything. So I think we all know Peyton Manning's going to go to the Hall of Fame, but nobody cares how great you are in the regular season. Everybody worries about how great you are in the playoffs. And Peyton Manning does not want to be remembered as this generation's Dan Marino. He wants to be his own person, his own player, one of the best of all time. To do that, he needs another ring.
Dustin, what do you think?
I say the record itself is pretty impressive, but I also can't diminish the fact that Peyton Manning is also one of the greatest regular seasons quarterback of all time. I think this really cements it. Like you said about the rings, it really doesn't mean too much. It's kind of like an empty, hollow record. Like, yeah, it's great for Peyton, it's great for the team, but in the end, what is it really?
Here's the thing that I'm kind of referring to. The record's great and everything, but it almost seems like we're in the kind of era like there's no steroids involved. But it's almost like the steroids era in baseball. I mean, quarterbacks are throwing the ball 50, 60 times a game now. You know, it's like, how many opportunities do you guys have? I mean, how many times have we seen 4 to 5 touchdown games already this season? Andrew Luck right now, I mean, he's killing it right now too. I mean, you probably wouldn't see that 10, 15 years ago, and now you're seeing it every single week. There's like one guy that's going to throw 5 touchdowns every single week. It's almost a guarantee now. So the record's cool and everything. I just feel like with how the league is now, especially with all the defensive penalties and things like that, with wideouts and not being able to touch them, not being able to sack quarterbacks, it almost seems like the record, although it's really cool, it's really awesome, whatever, it's a lot of touchdowns. I mean, that's like, well, it's a lot to throw, but I just, I think it kind of diminishes the respect you have for the actual record.
Okay, so talking about just the actual record, will this record ever be broken again, you think? Any one of you?
I would think so.
You think it's going to be broken?
With the defensive rule changes and everything and how basically this league is built for offense, I do think one day it'll be broken.
Yeah.
All right, well, Peyton isn't the only hot player in the NFL right now in reference into his play right now, hot player in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers, DeMarco Murray, J.J. Watt, all names being tossed around for that MVP conversation. So we'll start with you, Dustin. Who is your MVP so far in the NFL season and why?
So far at this point of the season, I really have to look at either DeMarco Murray or Tony Romo. Because when it comes to MVP consideration, I really like looking at what they've done versus the expectations coming into the season. And the Dallas Cowboys were expected to be a subpar, mediocre team, maybe about 500 team, and then Tony Romo and Murray have just pushed them to where they could be one of the best teams in the NFL at this point.
You cannot put Tony Romo in the MVP
conversation.
conversation.
You can't. No.
Absolutely not. DeMarco Murray, yeah, I think up to this point you have to go with him as the current NFL MVP just based on what he's done. 7 games in a row, at least 100-yard rushing. That's never been done before. The great Herschel Walker, Adrian Peterson, both of their MVP seasons were not even to that point. So I think at this point you got to go with DeMarco Murray. However, I do think Aaron Rodgers takes the title for himself at the end of the year.
It's hard to argue with you guys. It kind of sucks because I thought you guys wouldn't say DeMarco Murray, so I thought I was being different. But I wrote these stats down, so these are actually real. Like this is a real thing. He has 60 more rushing attempts than the next leading guy, which is Arian Foster, and he has 300 more yards than the next leading rusher. I mean, it's like dude's played like 2 more games than everybody else, but he hasn't. He's played the same amount of games as everybody else. It's ridiculous. He literally put the team on his back, dude. Like, that's a real thing. I think, though, just to be different or whatever, Andrew Luck also having a phenomenal year. Every year it seems like the Colts kind of have the talent. For some reason, I'm like, they might be good. I don't know. I mean, they have a couple good pieces, but then it's like now they're, in my opinion, a Super Bowl favorite coming out of the AFC. So Andrew Luck just putting things together and being that, living up to expectations.
I think you were trying to say DeMarco is hungry, feed the guy the ball. I think that's what Nick was trying to say. But there's a couple other, you said Tony Romo. You guys disagree with it. But is there anybody you think in the NFL right now? I mean, you could say J.J. Watt. Is there somebody that's a sleeper maybe that just is going to hang out there for a little bit and could be a threat at the end of the season?
Yep.
Quietly, it's got to be Phillip Rivers. I mean, that guy's got numbers alongside Peyton Manning, alongside Aaron Rodgers, and yet nobody's ever talking about him. Why? I have no idea. Probably because his cast of supporting receivers and running backs are next to nobody, and yet the guy is still getting it done. It's troublesome because I don't think he will get the MVP just based on his lack of recognition, but that guy sure will make a nice push at the end of the year for it.
I'd probably have to, I'm going to throw, just because, let's throw Jordy Nelson out on there.
Why not?
Why not? I mean, yeah, he had a couple games where he's only had a couple catches, but dude is on fire this year. So
fantasy machine.
Anything to add, Dustin?
Not too much for a surprise. It's pretty much sure it's going to be between the guys I mentioned earlier this year.
All right, well, sticking with football, 4 of the 5 top teams in the nation in college football right now are in the SEC West. Ridiculous after 8 weeks. So this is probably not going to stand there. All these teams are going to play each other, going to beat up each other. So as of right now, we'll start with you, Dustin. Who are your teams in the college football playoff?
My teams as of right now, I would go Mississippi State. I would put Oregon back in the discussion. I would put Florida State in it. And I would honestly am going to take the one-loss Big Ten championship if Ohio State or Michigan State can make it out of the Big Ten.
What do you think, Chase?
I struggle with this. I think Florida State's going to have to make it. Their schedule gives it to them. I think Bama comes out of the SEC. Oregon slips in there alongside Michigan State.
Yeah, pretty much, a mix of what you guys said. Florida State's going to go, they'll run the table. I feel like eventually they'll just overtake the number 1 seed again. But I do think Mississippi State also runs the table. They'll be in there. Marcus Mariota, can't never deny that guy. I think Oregon's getting in. And I think after Bama's lost to they won't lose another game. They have a pretty tough schedule playing the SEC, but I think 2 SEC teams get in. Would like to see Notre Dame because they definitely deserve it. I think we'll talk about that a little later.
We'll talk some Notre Dame at the end.
Okay.
But I want to see what your guys' thoughts on this. I've already read there's some controversy already with this new college football playoff because there's 5 Power 5 conferences, only 4 spots there, so there's going to be 5 conference champions. One of them's not going to get in. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Do you like this new college football system, or it's just not everybody's going to win, are they?
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say I feel like it's just the media's way of giving us a little bit of what we want, but not completely what we want. Everybody wants a full tournament. We're never going to get it. I initially said we should have 8 teams. That way you have conference champions from all big conferences alongside, the independent teams such as Notre Dame, stuff like that. So I don't really like the 4-team format, but it's better than nothing. I'll certainly take it.
Yeah, the 8-team thing is kind of cool because in that aspect, it's almost like with college football, you wish you could have a series. You can't with football, but you almost wish you could because how they've shown anything can happen on any Saturday or whatever day they play. It's almost like college basketball or what have you, but it's kind of hard because I think almost in any situation, unless you have a series, you're always going to be like, that team should have won, but they didn't, or that team should have gotten a chance, but they didn't, just because you never know in that one-game playoff. But yeah, I agree with you. An 8-team playoff setting would be probably best. But
I still feel that we have a lot of season left, so I feel like it's really going to sort itself down, and by the end of it, we're not going to have as much question marks, as much debate, because like we said, the SEC West is going to basically cannibalize itself over the next couple of weeks.
Real quick, Heisman. My boy Dak Prescott's having big games against big teams. Is he the favorite right now to win the Heisman? I like to think so if he keeps this level of play up. Don't you guys think so, or what do you think?
I think so, which pains me to say because I'm a big-time Melvin Gordon fan, but I think if Prescott can keep this up, he takes the trophy. However, I don't think he does. I think he starts to falter here towards the end when he starts playing all the big SEC powerhouses.
Anybody else got anybody add? Any other surprising Heisman guys?
Nope.
It's either Dak or Melvin Gordon. All right, well, guess what? The World Series starts tonight. Game run of the World Series is tonight. First pitch scheduled at 7:07. Massive Bumgarner against Jamie Shields. Guys, I guess just strictly for this game tonight, who wins this game tonight and why? We'll start with anybody.
I'll go first. I'll take it. I say that Kansas City's back in the World Series for the first time since 1985. I say they're definitely going to go for it, and they're going to take it home tonight.
Dude, it's destined for Kansas City. Are you kidding me? Since
Yeah,
85, they haven't been back there. The town is going crazy. They have not lost a game in the playoffs yet. Think about that. They have not lost a single game. They're going to win this.
Yeah, they're going to win. They're going to sweep San Francisco, too. It's going to happen. They're not going to lose a single game. There's too much Brewers magic on that Kansas City Royals team.
Oh, my goodness.
And, they're going to take the one tonight, and they're going to take the next 3 games.
minus 25 points.
Minus
Nick,
25?
Brewers reference, all right.
Wow.
But come on now, let's think about Madison Bumgarner hasn't given up more than 3 runs this whole postseason. No love for Madison Bumgarner tonight in the first start of the World Series?
Baseball is a game of magic, and I just don't think you can pick a more magical team than the Kansas City Royals. From what they've done all season to get to where they are right now, especially beating the Athletics, the first game of the playoffs to get here, it's crazy. I just don't think you can, no matter who's pitching, they can't stop the magic that is the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah, you want to talk about playoff pitching. They topped, quite possibly the most prestigious playoff pitcher in the game, John Lester, in that game, in that one-game playoff. Madison Bumgarner, another lefty. I mean, there's a lot of lefties in the Royals lineup, but they figured out how to do it. They've been figuring out how to do things for the past couple of months, and I don't know how you can bet against them.
All right, so just real quick, X factor, I guess. If the Giants are going to win, who's the X factor for the Giants if they're going to win the World Series, you think?
It's probably their bullpen pitching because these games are probably going to go a lot of extra innings. I think, I think we're probably going to see at least, 3 out of the 7 games. If it goes, 7 games, definitely an extra innings just because that's how Kansas City plays. They play down to the wire. It seems like they thrive off that kind of environment. So, I think if any team's going to win, it's going to be all about the bullpen. So
he says the bullpen. You guys got anything other different, you think?
I think the X factor for the World Series for the Royals is small ball, and I think the X factor for the Giants is going to be how they play against small ball. Royals have been small balling their way right into the World Series, never losing. So I think it's going to come down to the Giants and how they react to that. Are they going to be able to play well against it, or are they going to falter?
I think my big question when it comes to the World Series is wondering if the Giants, let's say they do take tonight, then they win again, how can the Royals play from being behind? Because it's a position that the team hasn't really been in before.
Good point, Dustin.
Good point,
Dustin.
All right, well, I guess we'll find out tonight. Game 1 is tonight, but we're going to take a real quick break. We'll be back with some buy or sell. Hang in there. Be back with some more sports scene.
Meet Tink. Oh wait, meet Khaleesi. These are 2 little kittens who need lots of toys and places to explore. Watch out, it's Ava. She's a spunky Chihuahua mix of 2 years, who loves the center of attention, especially when children are around. This is Trent. He is a 2-year-old orange tiger. While he spends much of his time on quests and adventures, he also makes time to show you his affectionate side. Look at those stunning blue eyes. Meet Coda. He's a strong male Siberian Husky of 6 years. He's house-trained, and he loves children. To find out more about adoption for these pets or others, contact the Cooley Region Humane Society at 781-4014.
Now, welcome back again. The Cooley Region Humane Society number is 781-4014. Well, after your first word, we are all tied up. We're all going to be at 10 points apiece. I think you guys said that right.
It says Chase is up by 5.
Well, guess what? Hey, Chase is up by 5.
Wow, okay.
All right, well, hey. The crew in the back there added 5 points to Chase, so Chase is in the lead.
That's not fair.
Right now. Hey, it's time to play some buy or sell. I'm going to ask these guys some questions. They are going to buy or sell the answer. And of course, it would not be a show without talking about famous Jameis, except he keeps causing trouble. This time he is under investigation for allegedly signing sports memorabilia, over 300 items. So a pretty basic buy or sell question. We will start with you, Nick. Do you buy or sell Jameis learning from all these mistakes that he keeps making?
I don't know. Jameis is kind of a kid that, I heard them talking about it in the media before, and it's almost like the idea where it's like that candy, that candy jar idea. The fact that you can literally, let's think about this perspective for a second here, guys. Okay, we don't have this problem. Maybe you do, Dustin, because you're so good looking. But the idea that you can sign something and sell it and get money for it, right now, I'm like, in what way can I make money so I can go have a McDonald's burger tonight? Is there a possible way where I can get funds to do that? This guy's like, oh, you want an old glove that I haven't worn for 6 months? Sign. Oh, here's $100. Wrap your minds around it for a sec. Wrap your minds around having to say no to doing that. Just think about how hard that might be. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to learn from those situations. I think it'll be different in the NFL where he's allowed to do the things that he's getting in trouble for. Nice picture of him, by the way. But yeah, I wouldn't say he's necessarily learning. He'll be out here pretty soon and he'll be drafted high. So I don't know.
So you buy it. So you're all right with him doing all this.
I'm selling the fact that he's learning. I'm buying the fact that he's just a college kid doing stupid things. So,
what do you guys say, Chase?
I mean, I would buy it, but then that would be a violation of the NCAA. You can't buy anything that whatever he said his name on. But I don't know when it comes down to Jameis Winston, the whole signature thing. Every great college athlete has done it. Let's be honest. Todd Gurley got in trouble for it already this year. The difference is he openly admitted to it. He's like, "Yep, I did it," and I give that guy a lot of props for it because his career is now going to suffer, but he did the right thing, come out and do it, and come out and say he was going to do it. Johnny Football did a lot better job at disguising it.
Yeah.
And Jameis is just kind of in that funky middle ground where he's going to get caught. But regardless, I'm selling on Jameis Winston as a whole. I also think he's going to be a flop in the NFL, but that's just me.
Buy or sell it.
Fighting words.
I'm definitely selling on the controversy. I mean, I don't think it really is going to matter. He's going to lead Florida State into the playoff.
All right, well, that was our Jameis Winston talk of the show. But now we're going to move over towards basketball, which basketball season is actually right around the corner, just about less than a month away. The latest preseason poll has been announced. The Badgers at number 4. So we'll start with you, Dustin. Do you buy or sell this Badger team in the top 5 right now?
I buy them when it comes to preseason rankings because preseason rankings always are a reflection of what happened last year. I believe that's accurate. I believe towards the end of the season they're not going to end up there. I'm going to see an early round X in the tournament reminiscent of other Badger teams, not like the one last year.
Ooh. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, any one of you two. Go for it.
I'm going to disagree hard on that. I am buying hard on this team. I think the amount of guys they bring back, the leadership, the talent level. I mean, you arguably could have 2 first-round picks on this team this year. I'm definitely buying them as a top 5 team. I'm buying them as a top 3 team. I think they will go to the Final Four this year, and depending on their matchup, I think they can get themselves into the national title conversation.
Yeah, we're talking about the entire, all the teams in general. But if you just look at the Big Ten, I did some research, you guys. I actually looked some stuff up.
Well,
I don't do homework often, but I do research when it comes to sports.
Who does?
But yeah, if you look at the rest of the Big Ten Conference, literally, every team besides Wisconsin lost all key playmakers. They're bringing in freshmen. You never know what a freshman's going to bring to the team. But Wisconsin is the only team to return as many guys as they did and improve. They got Koenig's coming into the starting lineup. I think that's going to be awesome. He's going to be more of a distributor. That'll move Trayvon to more of a 2 role, more of a scorer role, which he loves doing, by the way, and I really dislike of him. But I think just because of the conference that they're in, the games they're going to get, I think they're going to run rampant in the Big Ten. That's going to improve only their stock. I totally buy them as a top 5 team.
A guy that was people didn't like his game last year, Sam Decker, they had high standards for him. Added some muscle, had 15, 20 pounds of muscle. They said his game, he's got shooting sleeve now, so he's got
a shooting sleeve?
He's got a shooting sleeve now, too.
Wow.
So, what do you guys think about Sam Decker? What do you think the year that he has? He's got to have a big year, doesn't he?
Oh, he's got to. You got to think. I mean, he's been training with guys like LeBron James this offseason, and I know he did some other work with some other top-tier NBA players. I'm buying in on Sam Decker. I think he's going to come into all the hype this year.
What does big for a Wisconsin guy mean? Averaging 12 points a game? Is that big for a Wisconsin player? Maybe shooting 50% from the three-point line or some crazy number? Is that what's big for Wisconsin? I don't know what it is.
Distribute the ball. They're a very unselfish team. And the one thing is, a Bo Ryan team, they're going to finish in the top 4 of the conference. That is a very consistent thing every year.
Bo knows.
But sticking with basketball, another NBA. Preseason is in full swing. LeBron heads home. KD out a couple months, no Paul George, and Derrick Rose is back.
With a fro.
For now. He's back for now with the fro. So, the team that won last year was the Spurs. They got everybody back. So, Nick, do you buy or sell the Spurs winning back-to-back titles this year?
Man, you are asking super early. I have no idea. I really don't. Cavs are obviously a sexy pick. I feel like Kevin Love isn't going to play as well as he did in Minnesota just because he's not the only piece there. It's like a Chris Bosh symptom. He'll go to Cleveland and he'll put up 15 points a game and 8 rebounds, and everybody will be like, what the heck's wrong with it? He's washed up. And it's not really. He's just a third option on a team that has a bunch of talent. As far as the Spurs, why not pick the Spurs? It's hard to, Tim Duncan showed last year he didn't fall off the planet at all. Manu Ginobili, but he kind of put it together when he needed to.
Still got a bald spot.
Yeah, he has a bald spot, and it's getting bigger. But he's been cutting the hair shorter, so it's not as noticeable. But I don't know. Why not?
Why not? What do you guys think?
I'm selling. I don't even have the Spurs coming out of the West.
Whoa! Who?
I got my Clippers coming out of the West. CP3 coming back strong. Blake Griffin. There's going to be a little more team camaraderie going on over there in L.A. And then I have, of course, my boy LeBron James getting the Cavs in there.
LBJ. Okay.
You got to take it. I don't know who wins that matchup, but I don't even see the Spurs getting into the finals.
What do you think, Dustin?
Oh, the only reason I would consider selling on them is because of their age, but that's what everyone's been saying the last
10
years.
years.
5 years.
That's never really been happening, so I can't really doubt them anymore.
I think Tim Duncan
You
might be
guys-
100 years old.
I think there's a chance Kobe comes out of the West. Seriously, let's think about this for a sec. He's Kobe effing Bryant. Seriously, he's the best player on the planet. How can the Lakers not make it?
With Jeremy Lin and P. Sweezy.
Oh wow, they're gonna be so good. Oh, are you kidding
Swaggy
right now?
P.
Because they're gonna be so good.
Swaggy P.
And don't discount the fact that they also, Steve Nash, he might play more than 10 games. So that'll also help him win those couple of games that he plays.
Only if he brings back the ponytail.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to take one more break. When we be back, we'll have a final word, a very controversial ending. But let's take a look at some perfect pets. Hang in there.
Meet Tink. Oh wait, meet Khaleesi. These are 2 little kittens who need lots of toys and places to explore. Meet Coda. He's a strong male Siberian husky of 6 years. He's house-trained, and he loves children. This is Trent. While he spends much of his time out on adventure, he also makes time to show you his affectionate side. To find out more about adoption for these pets or others, contact the Cooley Region Humane Society at 781-4014.
Again, the number for the Cooley Region Humane Society is 781-4014. Welcome back to Sports Scene. Why don't we take a look at the points breakdown right now? And I believe Chase is still in the lead, 20 points. Nick and Dustin, 15. But hey, it's the final word, so anything can happen in the final word. So why don't we start with it? The number 2 and 5 team met Saturday night at Florida State. Florida State survived the Irish late, but not without a controversial ending, as you can see here. Offensive pass interference took away the potential Notre Dame game-winning touchdown. So, any one of you guys, I don't care who wants to start, raise your hand, I'll call on you. What were your thoughts on this game ending? Nick's raising his hand. What do you think?
I don't get it. I don't see what it is there. It almost seems like the NCAA, it's a conspiracy. It's like, oh, we want Jameis as the number one guy. He's like the most most polarizing figure right now in the NCAA. Notre Dame, I think they had that game won. That would have been an amazing ending to a game, and it's just like, how can you call that? Like, seriously, that won't be called on. That's like called 50-50% of the time, and they call it at the end of a game on a game, go-ahead touchdown. That makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Not to mention with 2 seconds left on the clock,
exactly.
Not even. I can't believe they
14.
made the call.
They wouldn't call that on a Hail Mary pass. If there was a Hail Mary pass that was 50 yards out and everybody was pushing and shoving each other, it'd be like, fair game, I'm the ref. But then for some reason on a little screen pass that never gets called, they're like, sorry, Notre Dame, here's your dreams as I throw them onto the grass.
What do you think? Anybody else? What do you think?
How often do those little pick passes happen?
All the time.
Every game. I mean, they probably happen. I think I saw a stat on ESPN the other day. It's on average for Notre Dame at least 8 to 12 times a game.
Yeah.
And they call that one.
That's what doesn't make any sense.
The ref has some cojones, man. That
it makes no sense. It sounds like if you want to beat Florida State, you have to be leading by 2 touchdowns. That's how it is.
What do you think, Dustin? You're sitting over here quiet. You got something to say? What do you got?
The formation that Florida State came out with wasn't really matched up for the offense that Chip Kelly called for that situation. If you see the receiver, the defensive back responsible, didn't even get involved in the play. He wasn't involved in the pick. Those receivers don't happen. The touchdown happens regardless. So I say you can't make that call.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that was crap.
But like they said, Brian Kelly said after the game, they had a blown coverage, and Notre Dame gets penalized for it. So I guess looking back, the refs, you see this more and more refs deciding games, and that seems to be a common theme here. What do you guys think about that?
Well, what are you going to do to fix it? You can't turn that into instant replay. That takes away from the integrity of the game. Plus, even with replay, how are you going to change that call?
Yeah, you can't.
Because technically he does put his hands on him.
Yeah. It's just like you almost think the unwritten rule of, as long as it's not super, obvious and just, detrimental to that last play, just don't call it. It's, it's that simple. I mean, we see it all the time.
So Notre Dame's got 2 ranked teams left. They got they got Arizona State, and I can't remember who the other team is left in their schedule, but I guess we'll see where they go from there. So the Irish are still fighting.
I want to know who won, Collin.
You want to know who won?
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you who won. The winner is Chase.
Horrifying picture from freshman
Chase
year.
is our winner today. His first time on the show, I believe, too. Correct?
It is.
The first time on Sports Scene, got the win today. It's your FaceTime now. What do you got?
Beginner's luck. Well, first things first, I'm going to say we need to change that picture for the next time I win. Second thing, I'm going to go off on a little bit of a rant for the Seattle Seahawks. I'm tired of hearing about the Seattle Seahawks. Yes, we all love Russell Wilson. He's a Wisconsin boy. But moving past that, their defense has now been figured out. They're rated 22nd overall, and they're not going to win that division. And there's too many other good teams for the wild card. They're not going to make the playoffs. I'm done with Seattle.
All right,
done.
Well, short and sweet. Congratulations, Chase, on the first time, everybody else. But that is all we have today for Sports Scene. Join us at, I believe, 3:55 for another episode of Sports Scene, and Thursday for Weekend Review. For now, hey, see you later, knuckleheads.